Hey guys, I'm back with another video. I'm going to be making a headband today, and I have this beautiful fabric that I'm going to be making a headband in. So I have the fabric cut in a strip, but it's way too long for a headband, so I'm going to cut it to the headband length, which I always do like 18 and a half. Just gonna cut it down here, and this would be my extra fabric. So what I'm going to do is the stretch stitch, which is the zigzag. I'm gonna fold it in half. Make sure it's all lined up. And I'm just going to sew all the way down the middle, down the seam. And make sure it stays lined up at the edge. And of course stop to fix it anytime that it doesn't line up at all. And sometimes the sewing machine eats the fabric, so I'm gonna cut it, and that's what I mean by eats it. So I'm gonna take my seam ripper, and I'm going right there, and I'm just going to get in there where the thread is and just break it. Breaking away any thread that got bunched up. Go on the other side, cut it. There's the extra thread. I'm going to open it to kind of rip this seam a little bit, making sure I don't cut the actual fabric. And you can kind of see right there, that's where it's all bunched up and the thread is not how it's supposed to be. So I'm gonna cut that and pull it apart. Pull any extra thread off of there. Cut it. And then just restart, lining it up. Now, since that happened, I'm going to put it down a little bit on what's already been sewn, just to kind of re-go over that, make sure it's closed up. Again, readjusting if it's needed. clip it off there. Clip off any extras here. And then where we started over here, clip these off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look, and right here there's extra right there. So I'm just going to take my rotary cutter and just cut as close as I can and just cut that extra fabric off. And you get little strips like this. And then I have a little thing right here with all my extra fabric that's not needed. Again, there's a little bit over here. Cut that off. Put it in my bin. And then I am going to turn it inside out. Well, inside right in this case. Just until it's all done. So it's going to be like this. Now for the headband, you want the seam to be in the middle, like on the inside. So I'm going to take this, make sure that seam is the correct way. Well, it doesn't really matter, but I like to make sure the seam goes the same way, so it looks neater, I guess what you'd say. What I do is make sure this seam is in the middle. And then I am going to actually take a straightener that I have. I'm going to straighten it. And I don't have an iron, which is what most people use, but I don't, so I just use a straightener. I'm just going to do that all down the whole thing, making sure that seam is the same way. I go over it a couple times to make sure there's no wrinkles. Flattening this out. Really making sure these ends are straight, because that will go into our next step in making a twist. So now that that's done, to make the twist, what I do is I put it like this, and this seam right there and this seam, I make sure the seam is on the outside, and I line this part with that middle seam on this side. So I line them up and make sure this edge is lined up with this seam. So the seam and the edges line up. And I straighten this out because of how difficult it is to line them both up. So now that they're lined up like that, I'm going to take this side which is my right side, I'm going to take it and fold it over. I don't know if you can see. Fold it like that, making sure they meet at that seam. And then line them up, the seam, and then take this one and fold it over the top. So this is the first one that I did, and then this is the second. So basically making an S shape, making sure they're all lined up at the seams, right there and right there. And then this one is, I do like it's like a kind of like a zigzag, but it's more secure for the stitch. I just sew basically in a U, like kind of a half U. Cut it. So now you can see that U shape, and I make sure I go off the edge on both sides. This one didn't go off, so I'm gonna redo that. Cut the string off. And then again, cut the thread as close as possible to the fabric. And then I'm going to take this extra fabric, take my rotary cutter, and I'm going to cut it, but not super close. Just cut that extra fabric off. I don't want to be too close to that seam. And it's going to look like that. And flip it. Fix this a little bit, and I just do a little stretch test to see how that twist is gonna look. Fix it a little bit, and there's your end product. Oh. Let me know how you liked coming along to make a twist headband with me.